Baseball had a problem. Games were dragging past 3 hours, stolen bases had nearly disappeared, shifts were turning line drives into easy outs, and fans were tuning out. The sport that once gave us stolen base kings and high-wire plays had become a slow, predictable grind. So between 2023 and today, MLB did something it almost never does. It overhauled the rulebook. Not just one tweak, a full package of changes that touched almost every part of the game. In this video, we're going to break down every major rule change, when it happened, why MLB made it, and most importantly, what it actually did to the game. Let's start with the biggest one, the pitch clock. Before 2023, the average MLB game lasted over 3 hours and 6 minutes. Pitchers were taking 23 seconds between pitches with runners on base. Batters were stepping out, adjusting their gloves, looking into the dugout, and nobody was stopping them. MLB had been testing a pitch clock in the minor leagues for years, and what they found was striking. Minor league games were consistently finishing under 2 hours and 30 minutes. The clock worked, it just needed to come to the big leagues. So starting in 2023, pitchers were given 15 seconds to deliver with the bases empty and 20 seconds with runners on. Hitters had to be in the box and alert by the 8-second mark. Violations meant an automatic ball or an automatic strike. No arguments, no exceptions. The players weren't thrilled. The player representatives on the Joint Competition Committee actually voted against the pitch clock. Cubs outfielder Ian Happ summed up the sentiment. The players would have preferred to start conservative and tighten the rules later, rather than jump straight to the strict version and work backward. But the results were hard to argue with. The average game time in 2023 dropped to 2 hours and 42 minutes, a 24-minute reduction from 2022 and the lowest average since 1984. For the first time since 2011, games were finishing in under 3 hours on a consistent basis. One of the most talked about side effects was Shohei Ohtani. He had been the slowest working starting pitcher in the league in 2022. The pitch clock clearly disrupted his routine, and his pitching numbers took a noticeable hit in 2023 before his elbow ended his season early. It became one of the most cited examples of how even elite pitchers had to adjust. And they did adjust. By 2024, MLB tightened the clock further, dropping the runners on time from 20 seconds down to 18. The average game was now finishing at 2 hours and 38 minutes. That's nearly 30 minutes faster than 2022, a completely different product. But pace of play was only part of the problem. Baseball had also lost one of its most exciting elements, and the pitch clock was actually designed to help bring it back. Stolen bases were dying. In the 1980s and 1990s, teams were stealing bases at a rate of around 0.75 per game. By 2022, that number had fallen to 0.51. Pitchers had essentially killed the running game by throwing over to first base repeatedly, keeping runners close, killing momentum, and resetting the pitch clock as a bonus. So MLB addressed it directly. Starting in 2023, pitchers were limited to just 2 disengagements per plate appearance. That means a maximum of 2 combined pickoff attempts or step-offs. If a pitcher tried a third pickoff and failed, it was an automatic balk. Runners would move up. This completely changed the cat-and-mouse game between pitchers and base runners. Suddenly, a runner at first could take a bigger lead knowing the pitcher only had 2 bullets to fire. Teams that had built rosters around athleticism and speed now had a clear advantage. The stolen base numbers were historic. The 2023 season saw nearly 1,000 more stolen bases than 2022, the largest single-season spike in the live ball era. The league-wide success rate hit 80%. The highest ever recorded in MLB history. By 2024, teams stole 3,617 bases, the most since the 1910s. Ronald Acuna Jr. went from 29 stolen bases in 2022 to 63 in 2023 on his way to winning NL MVP. Speed had become a weapon again overnight. The Pickoff Limits did a lot of the heavy lifting on stolen bases, but they had help from a change that sounds almost too simple to matter. The bases got bigger. That's it, 3 inches. Bases went from 15 inches square to 18 inches square, and it quietly made a meaningful difference on multiple levels. First, the math. Bigger bases mean less distance between them. Specifically, the distance between first and second base and between second and third was reduced by 4.5 inches. That doesn't sound like much, but at top sprint speeds, those inches matter. Runners reach the bag faster, and more close plays go their way. Second, the safety piece. The expanded base gave first basemen more room to plant their foot while still staying out of the path of the incoming runner. That reduced the collision risk on bang-bang plays, a real concern for both infielders stretching for throws and base runners who had to share a very small bag. The stolen base impact was real. It worked together with the pickoff limits and the pitch clock to create a completely different environment on the bases. All three of those rules pointed in the same direction: get runners moving, create pressure, and make the game more dynamic. While those three rules were designed to speed things up and add excitement on the bases, there was a fourth change in 2023 aimed at something different: fixing a problem that had been frustrating hitters for over a decade. The shift had gotten out of control. What started as a clever strategic adjustment, moving infielders to the side of the field where a hitter tends to pull the ball, had evolved into something that felt like it broke the basic geometry of the game. By 2022, the league batting average had fallen to .243, the lowest since 1968. Pull hitters, especially left-handers, were seeing three infielders positioned on the right side of the field every single at-bat. MLB's minor league data made the case clearly. In the lower levels where shifts were already restricted, left-handed hitters saw their batting average on balls in play rise by 8 points. At AAA, where the shift was still allowed, it rose by only 3. So starting in 2023, teams were required to have 2 infielders on each side of second base, with all 4 having both feet on the dirt when the pitcher releases the ball. No more stacking 3 defenders to one side. No more hiding a shortstop in shallow right field. The impact was measurable. Batting average league-wide climbed 6 points in 2023. Batting average on balls in play rose by 7 points. Runs per game jumped from 8.6 in 2022 to 9.3 in 2023. Hitters were making contact and getting rewarded for it again. There was a real counter-argument, though. Some pitchers and defensive coaches pushed back, arguing that banning the shift put more pressure on pitchers to generate strikeouts and put extra stress on bullpens as scoring increased. It's a legitimate point, but most fans and players agreed the game looked more like baseball was supposed to look. While the on-field rule changes were getting all the attention, there was a structural change happening at the same time that quietly reshaped the entire regular season. For most of baseball's modern history, your schedule was dominated by your division. From 2001 onward, teams played between 16 and 20 games against each divisional opponent, nearly half the schedule against just 4 teams. If you were in the AL East going up against the Yankees, Red Sox, and Blue Jays every year, that was a significant competitive disadvantage compared to a team sitting in a weaker division. Starting in 2023, that changed. Teams dropped from 19 games against each division rival down to just 13 or 14, and every team now plays at least one series against all 29 other franchises during the regular season. Interleague games nearly tripled, jumping from 20 to 46 per team. The goals were fairness and entertainment. With the expanded wildcard format already in place, it made less sense for teams from weaker divisions to have a built-in scheduling advantage over teams from tougher ones. And from a pure fan perspective, every market now gets to see Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, and the rest of baseball's stars at least once a season. There are, however, valid criticisms. ESPN's Buster Olney noted that with fewer divisional matchups, teams that fall behind early in the season have fewer natural opportunities to climb back into a divisional race. The high-stakes drama of late summer division series has genuinely been diluted. It's a trade-off, less tribal, but more fair. By the end of 2023, the results were in. Attendance across the league was up 9.15%, the biggest single-year increase in 30 years. The rules worked, but MLB wasn't done. The 2024 season brought a round of refinements rather than dramatic new rules. Beyond tightening the pitch clock, MLB also expanded the runner's lane at first base, giving runners more freedom to run in fair territory without being called for interference. This cleaned up a category of plays that had produced some genuinely confusing and controversial calls in previous seasons. It was a quiet change, but an important one. The kind of rules cleanup that keeps the game consistent and reduces the friction between what fans see on the field and what the rulebook says is supposed to happen. And now we get to the newest rule, one that just went into effect, and one that could have the most far-reaching consequences of anything on this list. Robot umpires are here. Sort of. Starting on opening day 2026, just last week, MLB officially launched the Automated Ball Strike Challenge System, or ABS. After years of testing in the minor leagues and during spring training, the technology finally went live in real games for the first time. Here's how it works. Human umpires still call every pitch behind the plate, exactly like they always have, but now the pitcher, catcher, or batter can challenge a ball or strike call by tapping their helmet, and the result gets reviewed almost instantly using Hawkeye camera technology. Each team starts the game with 2 challenges, and they keep a challenge if they win the review. The system uses 12 cameras in each ballpark, tracking every pitch to a margin of error of about 1/6 of an inch. The strike zone is 2-dimensional and personalized to each batter's height, measured precisely before the season. The result is then transmitted over a 5G network and shown on the stadium video board and TV broadcasts in real time. The first ABS challenge in MLB history came on opening day. Yankee shortstop Jose Caballero tapped his helmet after a strike call from umpire Bill Miller. The challenge failed and the call stood. The next day, Mets catcher Francisco Alvarez made the first successful challenge, overturning a ball call to strike 3 on O'Neal Cruz. During the 2026 spring training, 53% of challenges were successful, and catchers led the way, winning their challenges at a 60% rate. The early verdict from fans and broadcasters has been overwhelmingly positive. 94 calls have already been overturned in fewer than 50 games. The drama of a public overturn on a key pitch has added a genuine new layer of entertainment. And the strategic element is real. Do you burn a challenge on a borderline pitch in the 3rd inning, or save it for a 2-strike count in the 9th? That's a new decision for catchers, hitters, and pitchers to manage, in real time with no help from the dugout. It's worth noting that MLB was very clear this is not full automation. Umpires still run the game. But in an era where 61.5% of ejections were tied to ball and strike disputes, giving players a legitimate avenue to correct a missed call without screaming in an umpire's face is a real upgrade. When you zoom out and look at everything together, the pitch clock, the pickoff limits, the bigger bases, the shift ban, the balance schedule, and now the ABS system, you're looking at the most comprehensive rules overhaul in MLB history within a single generation. The results have been real. Games are shorter, stolen bases are back, hits are up, attendance is up, and the sport is still evolving. Whether you love every change or not, it's hard to argue with the fact that baseball is more watchable than it's been in decades. And with the ABS system still in its first week, there are still more storylines to come.